Same-sex twin flames live. How you doing? So we had the eclipse last night. How has that affected you? I had a headache from Friday evening and yesterday, and today I feel slightly better. But you may have noticed emotions come up, anger, pains, aches, stomach ache. How was the eclipse for you last night? You might have also felt your twin flames energy. So today the live is about same-sex twin flames, and this isn't often talked about often. And whenever I have leaned towards anything that goes on this topic, I always get trolls that I have to report and block who try to say that, oh, I cannot be a divine feminine energy because I'm a male, I'm taking away from feminines, I can't be in a same-sex connection, blah, 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 blah. A lot of judgment. A lot of, I believe, non-twin flamey people who pretend to be twin flamey, who are saying these things, right? And they do it from a very toxic, distorted way because the world is toxic and distorted. There's a huge anti-everything right now going on, you know. There is, anti-women, anti-people of color, anti-LGBTQ plus, anti anything that's not Christian, anything. It's just everything is anti right now, right? In a lot of countries. Not the majority. I think the majority are generally more open and loving, we hope. But there are that loud crowd that are like very anti. So that sort of is propelling a lot of the sentiments that people are holding on to. Oh, if you're in a same-sex twin flame connection, it's an abomination, or it's against God, or you're taking away from our feminist rights and stuff like that. Now, God doesn't create mistakes, right? There's no mistake by God. So everything created is there for a reason. And same-sex connections have existed throughout time in all species, all across the universe. And some would say, oh, it needs to be man and woman so that you can procreate and have children. But what about those men and women who are together, who don't or can't procreate, who can't have children or don't want to have children? Or those who struggle or have very toxic relationships or toxic dynamics, distorted dynamics, where there is abuse and violence and their children are more harmed than loved, and maybe in a same-sex connection, they'll feel more love. Who knows? Now, the LGBTQ plus community, because they're so ostracized, have a lot of shame and guilt and issues. And often what happens is if you keep saying something to someone, if they're not brave enough, they'll accept it, unconsciously accept it. And you'll notice your divine masculines may be like that too. If they're told things over and over and be broken down, they may accept it. How people behave as racists, that kind of sometimes perpetuates people to behave that way. Okay, you think I'm that way? I'm going to be that way. And the DMs do that often as well, don't they? So with the LGBTQ plus Q community, they have been always reduced to sex, always reduced to the act rather than the connection, the soul, the love. And even with sexual health for LGBTQ plus people, it's always focused on preventing HIV and STDs, as opposed to the root causes. Why are people sleeping around so much? Because they've been reduced to that. So they're doing that, right? They're putting the middle finger up and doing the things that they're told. When they are triggered, when they are feeling vulnerable, they want validation, they want attention. So they go to that side. In the LGBTQ plus community, there's a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, a lot of self-loathing, a lot of attention seeking, a lot of validation, a lot of single people because they have lack of self-love, right? So there's all those things, and it's so problematic. And some twins chose to incarnate in those problems to clear them. And I have spoken about this in previous lives, about why I chose to come as I did. Apologies for being slightly late for this live. My beautiful, amazing LaserJet fax printer was not working. So today we're going to use the laptop, okay? So eclipse energy. Write down in the comments, write down how it's been for you last night. I've had a headache for 2 days. I'm all right today. So welcome to the live on same-sex twin flames. Today we're going to focus on same-sex twin flame unions, which is not often talked about. And it does get a lot of, not a lot, but some nasty people, right? And it's often misunderstood or erased, but it's actually central to the truth of the soul. And we should all be interested in it to be able to get out of our own restrictions, because sex and gender can keep us conditioned and keep us stuck in loops. So sex is your sex organs, whether you are born male, female, but you could also be born, with both or neither. You could be intersex, right? So in that sense, it's not just one or the other. It's an umbrella term for your sex organs. Now, what happens in society is when they look at your sex organs, if they see female sex organs, they'll put the gender narrative and conformity on you, and they'll, dress her up in pink, and girls are quiet, and this and that, and they get conditioned in that way, and that can limit you, keep you stuck in a box. And then the same thing with the boys, they see their male parts, and then it's like, boys don't cry, and the way they're treated, it's all social conditioning, which again can prevent you. Now, if you're on the twin flame journey, you've got to learn how to balance both sides, because as twin flames, we share a soul, right? And we share the chakra system. One is going to be in the lower chakras, one is going to be in the upper chakras. That's why I prefer the yin yang or positive and negative more so, because yin yang also is kind of feminine and masculine principles, but positive and negative less so. And you are kind of like split, right? So like regular souls, I believe, tend to have mixture, more balanced perhaps at times, or maybe one or the other. But with twin flames, it's definitely one or the other, more so. You're more so prominent in your feminine energy or the masculine energy. What you're meant to be. A lot of us are in distortion anyway, we have to clear it. So one of you will be more in the allowing and the receptive and the emotional and the spiritual side, and the other will be more in the active and physical and logical 3D side. But you've got to balance both. I don't believe that you can switch. Some people believe they do switch in this lifetime, or in other lifetimes the switch, maybe in other lifetimes it can happen, I don't know. But in this lifetime, I believe the polarity you are, that's the one that's going to be. The reason why it seems like there is a switch is because as you start balancing your inner masculine, you start doing all the inspired action, and then your masculine starts doing their inner feminine work. So it seems that way. But there will always be one who is more spiritually connected, more receptive, and the other one's going to be more sort of logical and in the physical realm. So it's important for all of us to understand how to balance both of them as well. And with same-sex twin flames, the beauty is that it's perhaps a little easier for them to balance it at times, because, for example, I'm in a male body, but I'm divine feminine. So for me, the masculine aspect is a little bit perhaps easier, right? Because that's how I was socially conditioned. So I've got a social conditioning of being a boy, but inside the spiritual aspects of being a woman, you could say. So today, the subject, which is often misunderstood, but it's central to us all, and I will be speaking about the spiritual origins, and I put a post on Instagram and TikTok just before this one. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, it's really good, but I'll do a little transcript of that. So we'll also look at how to balance the inner masculine and feminine energies by looking at the same-sex twin couples and how they do it as well. And then we'll break this patriarchal conditioning of judgment, because it is just all conditioning. I'll answer questions later. And then I'll share a little bit about my own story. So let's begin, okay? So the post I put up earlier, it was about the spiritual origins, right? And it's the guy, and he's asking AI about, why people are in same-sex unions. Hopefully you can hear me, and that's great. So this is what the transcript said. Akashic records state that same-sex unions are not deviations from spiritual truth, meaning they're not distortions from spiritual truth. They're not rebellions from it. They're not wrong, essentially. There's nothing wrong with it. They are actually the truth of spirituality, which is multifaceted. So they are expressions of all that is. Souls incarnate in a variety of gender expressions, sexual orientations, and relationships. And they do it to explore love, unity, and creativity, and to go beyond the binaries, go beyond the this and the that, the male and the female, the right and the wrong, to go beyond that, because there is gray areas. And as twin flames, we are here to smash those binary concepts and go into totality and oneness, right? So this human society imposes the right and wrong, black and white, and good and bad narrative, which keeps us locked in separation consciousness, rather than unity consciousness. So with the blurring of the lines, which is not easy for people who are conditioned, they feel threatened. They feel like you are an anomaly. They feel like you are a threat to their values, whether it's Christian values or heterosexual values or whatever values they are. They feel it's a threat. And that's why we have so many, huge number of LGBT plus crimes. A lot of transgender people are killed, especially the ones of color, because people cannot fathom something different to what they are, and they see it as a threat. And often the people who are the most vocal are the ones who have those desires within. Right. So at a soul level, there is no judgment. Yeah. From source, God, universe, there's no judgment. It's only experience that you're having. There's no mind that's assessing and analyzing. There is just contrast and remembrance. So same-sex unions often carry soul contracts in balancing polarities within. So they're more concerned perhaps with exploring the different aspects of that gender and masculinity and femininity. It's more sort of blurred so that they can perhaps integrate it easier. And not just internally, but externally too. So these relationships, they may mirror karmic ties, twin flame unions, or high vibrational soul pairings, chosen to break ancestral or societal templates of suppression and shame. Because throughout history, there's been so much suppression and shame about the way you look and dress and who you are attracted to and who you love. You know, girls have to wear certain clothing, and if a boy wears it, it's wrong. There's all these things that are kind of just nonsense, really, you know, because we're born naked. Like, what is the issue? But anyway, some people may believe that they are more inclined to be a certain way genetically. That could be. You may be genetically inclined to be masculine or feminine, or you choose to, right, in this lifetime. But that might not be in every lifetime. So many of these same-sex unions carry the energy of healing. They're healing the collective wounds of the world around acceptance, identity, and love without condition. Alternative lifestyles, whether non-binary, trans, etc., also emerge as forms of soul liberation. They reflect humanity's movement towards freedom of form and reclaiming the truth that consciousness is fluid and not fixed. From the Akashic Records view, these paths are sacred experiments in how Source experiences itself through love, connection, and authenticity. It's almost like an act of kind of helping others to get out of their own boxes that they've put themselves in. If people can actually accept it as a blessing, like your twin flame is, right? But if you rebel against the blessing, then you will want to destroy it. Right, so from the records, they are experiencing all these beautiful things like love, connection, and authenticity. Souls who choose such lives often come with a mission to repattern social structures and open the collective awareness to the vast expression of divine, vast spectrum of divine expression. So they're not just allowed by spirit, they're actually sanctified by it, meaning they're actually cherished and ordained and given the green light fully, like with roses and flowers and music and whatever else. So let that sink in. I know a lot of you just like writing in the comments and perhaps just reacting and where's my twin flame? I don't know, I haven't read the comments, but where's my twin flame? Can you ask me? And I understand when you're on the journey, your fear and your pain body is completely active and you go crazy and insane. That will not help you. But it takes time with inner work and just time in general where you balance. So take a second and allow those words that I've just said sink in, and then maybe write in the comments below whether this resonates with you, whether you see any truth of it. How do you see same-sex twin flame connections? That's what this live is about, you know. So let's stick to the topic. Right, so let's look at the predetermined contrast and soul power. So twin flames, as we know, well, not everyone knows because people are annoying, but it's not about gender, it's about energy. And you are attracted to your twin flame not because of the way they look. Often they're not really your specific type either, always. And there's always differences and variations. Age, sex, gender, religion, faith, country, marriage, and we put all those in place. We have all those differences in place because we know on a soul level we will find each other, we will love each other no matter what. So we try to do as many hurdles and hoops in between so that we can overcome and realize that love is love. And despite what the differences are, we will always overcome them as twin flames. And that's what we're here to show the world. It doesn't matter if you're different, we'll still love you. And I have had clients in the past, far past actually, like 2 years ago, where one of the clients, he was gay. Well, that's what he thought, but he was abused, God bless him, sexually abused as a child. So he thought that's why he was gay. But his twin flame was a woman, and he was attracted to, and he couldn't figure it out. So that happens too, and it really. Then he healed his trauma and wound, and he actually was heterosexual. That can happen. Then you have twin flames who were otherwise straight, and then they are in same-sex connections, and they some of them cannot accept it really fully. So these things come up because we, as souls, want to create a little bit of excitement or drama or difference in order to overcome it. It's a challenge. If you went into the game and it was easy, you wouldn't be bored. Especially twin flames, you are old souls. You want it hard and tough, okay? So we know that the divine feminine and masculine are polarities of energy. It's not about your gender and it's not about your sex. And if anyone writes nasty things, I will delete it and report it or block it, whatever, because I just don't like any of that judgment or nastiness. So you may find that a man may discover that he's a divine feminine and it freaks him out. And he could be heterosexual, his twin flame could be a woman, but then he's like, I'm a man, but I'm a feminine, and she's a woman and she's a masculine. It doesn't make sense, right? Because the way in which the divine masculine, divine feminine energy has been used throughout twin flame dumb has been again patriarchal. It has been based again upon the binary and of gender and sex norms, stereotypes, which actually reduces who we are and prevents us from being in our totality. It's not really an accurate concept. I do personally prefer, like I've said, yin yang, but more so positive and negative as well. That's even better. But yeah. Anyway, so and a woman may discover she's the divine masculine and freak out too. And for many transgender or non-binary in the community, the whole twin flame thing does not make sense to them because it's like, I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, like I'm not feminine, masculine. It doesn't make sense. That's why I say focus on the energy. Focus on the energy, not on the meat suit, not on the body, not on your sexual organs, not on the body parts and how you operate in bed or outside of bed and what are you doing. That's all physical. It's just clothing, okay? Focus on the energy. Focus on within. I like one more spiritual, one less spiritual. You are both spiritual, but one more conscious, one more unconscious, maybe. You can see it that way. Right, okay. So therefore, the whole same-sex twin flame union is sacred because it's different. And it's actually not an error. They are chosen, specifically coming in to come in that way. And if you're very familiar with the work of Abraham Hicks, she talks about these things too. She talks about people who are autistic or LGBT or, very different. And she always says they come in with a predetermined mission that they cannot be square pegs to go into round holes. Like you can't put them in a slot. You can't box them up, right? And the same thing with LGBTQ plus ones. So all these differences were predetermined by the souls to have as much contrast as possible and to overcome that with unconditional love, right? The souls thought it was fun before they came down. I've seen us come down in 2x2 when the call was made, and we just thought, yeah, put that down, make it as tough as possible because we can do this. And some make it more tougher. They bit more than they could chew, perhaps. But if it's in your contract, you can do it. So for the soul knows no boundaries. It is humans that place all this upon us. These souls are very powerful, and they say, no matter what, I will find you, love you, and accept you, no matter what conditioning I've gone through. And that again goes through anyone who is in a different race, religion, caste, whatever it is, all the differences, the age, the distance, marriage, it is nothing, meaningless. That is not even an issue for these souls. And so Abraham Hicks says, your happiness does not depend upon the conformity of another. What another is doing should not infringe upon what you are feeling. Your own happiness depends upon your connection with source, with God, with universe, whatever you want to call it, not upon what another is doing. So if another is a same-sex union or whatever they are, different intercaste, whatever class, whatever's going on, different races together, why is that a problem for you? Why are you having fear that it's going to encroach on your life or lifestyle or kids or whatever it is? Because, people get very much like, oh, it's going to affect my kids. They're teaching this in schools or whatever. But you are what you are, right? No one can really indoctrinate you. With same-sex unions, I remember when I first started to grapple with this as who I am. So I started to go through puberty when I was, I think, 8, and by 11, I knew that I was into men, and I didn't want to be. I grew up in a very violent, toxic household. It was not safe for me or anyone or my mother. And then from 11 to 13, I tried to brainwash myself to become straight, and it didn't happen. And then I don't want to ruin a woman's life by getting married to her, right? So that's when I decided to just focus on myself, get very good grades, get the top grades, and just get educated and leave. So for me at that time, I was like, why would someone choose to be same sex, right? Even if someone was trying to indoctrinate you at school or educate you or see it on the media, it's not a trend. Some people like to say, oh, it's trendy now, or it's well, I don't know what the hell they say, but they say all these things, don't they? That it's fashionable to be gay. No, it's not. Why would you want to be ridiculed and bullied and all that kind of stuff? So, but there are people out there who do like gay for pay porn and things like that because they want to profit from it, or they do like that escorting, but that's because of money reasons. But as in like as a person really being that, I don't think anyone can like choose on a human level be forced into it or whatever else. It's soul led. So the soul has no boundaries. It's the humans that place it, you know. And Abraham Hicks says that basically those who are born with great difference do so in order to teach you that they cannot be put in a box. And your happiness does not depend on them being in a box, because you're trying to like label it and strap it down so that you feel safe. But your safety does not depend on another. You need to learn how to feel safe within yourself anyways. And we know that as twin flames, because we get blasted from our twin flame, they run away, and we realize that our joy and happiness and peace and love does not depend on them. And if you are truly doing your work, you'll get to that place where you are in peace and bliss, and you will look at them and be like, what was all the fuss about, right? And the last few days for me, since this eclipse and all, I'm really not as bothered. I've actually been feeling a little bit repulsed the last 2 days with my twin and just all that kind of stuff and whatever he's done. But it's like, it's not a big deal anymore. In the beginning, it is a big deal. But as you heal all the stuff within and you're in a place of peace and bliss, it doesn't matter what the other one does. You're okay. And then you're okay with being alone with a soulmate or with your twin. Whatever it is, you surrender it. You surrender the union too. You do. And some of you will be horrified because you're still in that fear and ego and mind. But you let it go because the mind doesn't know. It's the soul. Anyway, so another person's conformity or their lack of does not impact on your own happiness or connection of source. Well, it shouldn't actually, should it? And these people are a gift to humanity, but many do not accept them as a gift, and they may kill them, beat them, ridicule them, ostracize them, etc., etc. So take a second to actually take that in. Have you felt pressure to conform in your relationship, in your spiritual path, with your family? Do you understand that concept? Is your twin flame very different to you? And are you stuck in a loop, in a box, in fear? I get it often. I get messages, oh my God, Maddie, I'm so fearful, I'm fearful, blah, blah, blah. And I get so many disempowered divine feminines. And I'm thinking, some of them have been following me for a while. And I like to champion a lot of power, a lot of strength in ourselves. And I'm thinking, like, what is going on here? Why are you so disempowered? You know, right. The next part, embodiment and breaking the patriarchy. So many of you watching right now would have had lives where you were male, female, transgender, either in this world, another world, in the universe, a spirit, an angel, all at the same time. It's all going on, right? You've done it all, you've lived it all, you've been it all. So who are you to judge? And who are you to kind of get stuck in that? So contrary, there is one twin flame guru or coach out there on social media who's got a lot of followers. And they say that they have said, I've heard, that twin flames of same sex should not have children. Now that's a judgment. And this person's not in union either, but it's a judgment. And a lot of you idolize this person. But what they say behind closed doors is a judgment, you know, and it's not good to say, because if you have been every single thing, and the body, it's not about the body, right? It's not about how you look. It's about your soul and your energy. Then why shouldn't same-sex twin flames have children, you know? And that very person who now is with a huge following saying these things behind closed doors, now in another life, that person may come as a transgender or a lesbian or a gay person, and then what? You know, then what? not good to say these things. It's bad karma. And this person extortionately charges people for money as well. Anyway, so the soul transcends the body, right? And we are here to break humanity's templates anyway. Thus, it can be easier maybe for a divine feminine in a male body to, like I said earlier, to embody those masculine traits as well, because you have to balance your man's masculine energy and vice versa. This is where we must break the patriarchal views of right and wrong and male and female and whatever, because it keeps us in boxes and it keeps us restricted. We are infinite divine beings. We don't need to be in any boxes. Patriarchy created fixed rules that love should look one way, that family should look one way, that masculine and feminine are limited to your body parts. These are human projections, not spiritual truths. When you balance your inner DM and DF, you do not ask whether your body matches that role. You know, when a DF is balancing her inner DM, she's not saying, oh, do I have a male body part or anything like that? No, you don't, because his energy. So you ask yourself, firstly, for the divine feminine energy, am I honoring my intuition, my receptivity, my flow? And then for the masculine energy, am I honoring action, structure, and boundaries? It's energy, not gender. The patriarchal template says you must suppress one side, but the soul truth says you must integrate both. Okay? So let me give you a little bit about my personal story. Okay? So I've mentioned in previous lives as well that I, in this lifetime, specifically chose with my twin flame to come in a same-sex couple. But in many lifetimes, I've actually been female, and he's been male. But there's been lifetimes where he's been female too. And we've chosen that specifically this time because me and him have come here to clear many different things. One of them I've said before is about pedophilia and sexual abuse, child abuse, etc. But another thing is also helping to heal the gay community because it's very distorted. A lot of drugs, a lot of sex, a lot of guilt and shame and lack of self-love, right? So we've taken on those roles, which are quite big roles to take. And, you know, I work a lot helping people and from the goodness of my being, and still people are never satisfied, you know. So still I get like homophobic remarks and nasty things at times. And then sometimes people will be saying, you know, I'm not doing enough. I barely have time to eat, let alone do anything else. So I think appreciation is required, that especially when someone is not your typical, I think, twin flame dynamic that's put out there. There should be a lot more care and consideration that that person might be going through a lot, you know. So anyway, in many lives, I have been a feminine, but my DM is also, you know, so we've switched in the physical, but the energy's always been the same. The energy's always been the same. So my DM is very comfortable in female clothing. You know, he's quite masculine, but he'll wear, in Italy, they're quite feminine, the men are anyway, but you can wear crop tops, and he wears crop tops and women's leather trousers and jeans. It's all natural because the soul has no attachment to these human categories, okay? You would have lived on many different planets and universes and aliens or whatever else. So why so hung up on it? So for me, what were the positives of being in a same-sex twin flame connection? So the positives were that there's no pressure to marry or have children, specifically like now. And there was also for me, like with some of you in your heterosexual connections, it's easier, I would say, to get into a relationship, maybe. With the gay community specifically, it's very difficult to get into a relationship. A lot of it's drugs and sex, you know, because of all the shame. So I had there was little chance that my divine masculine would end up with someone else because it's so hard to get with someone in the first place. So he would most likely be single, right? Single and maybe sleeping around in the beginning or whatever else. So that was a positive, I guess, because with a lot of you, your divine masculines go and find another woman, don't they? All right. So the challenges of being in a same-sex twin flame connection is the shame and the guilt, the ostracization, the scapegoating, the threats. You know, I mentioned I used to do a lot of LGBT work before, and I stopped because I used to get threats to my life. My family used to get threats. And that's how I have built such a strong backbone, you could say, and not much phases me because I've seen it all. And those are challenges that other heterosexual coaches and stuff don't have not experienced, right? They might have experienced different ones about their gender or whatever else, or their race, but not that specific one. So yeah, and then the other challenges are the lack of meaningful long-term connections in the community. Right. So twin flames reflect the inner polarity. Same-sex twin flames often accelerate this balance because they cannot lean on what society says. We are different. The soul transcends the body. It also transcends orientation. Same-sex twin flames can absolutely choose to have children if they want. Um, the purpose of the connection is to dismantle distorted human templates and not fit into them. And they open the collective awareness to that, to help others also free themselves from those templates and restrictions if you are open to it. So just take a second. Have you felt that your twin flame challenges your gender role, your identity? Is there any sort of things that come up for you? Because often the DMs are in their distorted energies anyway, and so are you. So sometimes you have feminines who are more in their masculine and they need to learn how to be in their feminine, and it's hard. They're used to being controlling and goal-getting and bulldozing the door down. How is it for you? Right. Let's look at inner work and integration, how we can transcend that. So to live this truth, any truth, all of us, we have to balance the divine masculine, divine feminine energies within, regardless of whether our gender or sex, whatever that is. So we got to let go of all this patriarchal judgment and societal conditioning, which keeps us locked into those paradigms of suffering. And that means we have to refuse to see the divine feminine as weak, quiet, little petal, or the DM as controlling and narcissistic and nasty. The society has all those things, but we have to transcend them, and we have to honor that they both exist within us. So every day ask yourself, are you listening to your inner feminine, your intuition, your creativity, your sensitivity? Are you allowing that? Because you have some divine feminines and who have more masculine energy, right? And they need to balance that by surrendering more, allowing more, accepting more, sitting, being more, and being more in peace. But then also, we have to balance the masculine, which is with the boundaries and not taking any BS from anyone, and also taking that inspired action, the structure, the clarity, having things in place. Some feminines are very all over the place, aren't they? So there you go. So balancing these energies will dissolve the illusion that love has to follow the human binary of male and female. When you hold both of those energies inside anyway, you free yourself from that judgment. Because God is all. God is not a man or a woman, it's all. And with your twin flame, you are becoming all, because they are your opposite polarity, masculine and feminine, but you got both of them. So they help you to get into your own wholeness. So it's very, same-sex twin flames can actually, if you have any friends that are same-sex or transgender, it can be very, very interesting for you also to learn from. Same-sex twin flame unions can accelerate that balance within, because they are both anyway, and there's no hiding. They don't have to be conditioned. They have to question and be forced to question what society tells them in the first place. They don't take it as given. Some of y'all might be just taking it as given. I'm born a woman, I'm a divine feminine, I'm pretty, I'm relaxed, and then you kind of stop being in your power. So the same-sex twins, they have to face the polarities directly, and that's why their unions can be very powerful for the collective. So if you discover your twin is same-sex, remember, this was determined by your soul. It's not accident, it's not wrong, it's sacred, because that happens, okay? So before I go into questions and look at other stuff, let's recap, let's finalize. So same-sex twin flame unions are sacred. They're expressions of truth, and they are not deviations. They're not distortions. They're not bad. They're not sinful, contrary to what some religions would say, the Abrahamic religions. They heal ancestral shame. They repattern society and remind us that the soul knows no boundaries. These connections are powerful. They exist to show humanity that love is unconditional. Patriarchal views of right and wrong are human inventions. The soul came here to break all those patterns. Balancing the DF and DM energy within is the work. Living beyond that conformity is the path. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But before I get into questions, I want to check in with the Bali retreat. So loads of interest, loads of people have filled the form in, like so many deposits. Some of you are dragging your heels with deposits. I need all deposits in so I can lock down the place. Now, Basundray retreat is happening from the 23rd to the 29th of January 2026. You can pay in installments. You can use PayPal, which has 4 months of 0% interest. And it's an unforgettable retreat because some of you say, you know, I want to heal, I want to be balanced, I want my union, I want this, I want that. But are you willing to put the work in? Are you willing to do the work? And some of you say, oh yeah, I can do it myself and this, that. But some of you, like, can you really? You know, can you really? Maybe you can, but if you can get some help and you can get to speak with other twin flames, some people are wanting to bring their DMs with them. So I've had like at least 2 people who've said that. So that will be interesting too. So it's a week-long sacred healing with all the professional guidance from me and the shaman that I've got, Ryan. And you'll also get to see Bali with the cultural immersion and excursions. So we get the entire retreat, get picked up and dropped off from Bali airport. You get the support from the entire team. All the rooms are there. You can either share either with another person or with your twin or come or have your own room. We've got the yoga shala there with all the material. There's extra facilities such as sauna, ice bath. You've got delicious, you know, daily breakfast, dinner, and lunch, all provided, all organic. And you also got complimentary snacks and cookies and fruits and tea and coffee and everything. Everything you could possibly want, you'll be there. When you arrive, you get a 15-minute head, foot, and shoulder massage, and then you also get a 60-minute Balinese massage later on. And we'll have a welcome ceremony by a Balinese priest to do symbolic offerings. And then we're going to do a tour for about 10 hours where we get to see the temple and do a waterfall purification ceremony with a priest as well, which is very beautiful, Balinese ceremony. And then we'll also go to the rice terrace, monkey forest, waterfall, and coffee plantation. And you get £500 worth of coaching and healing from me as well, on top included, before, during, and after, to help with integration. And then you get yoga and meditation too. And the main thing is the shamanic healing, which is what you're there for, the plant medicine. And if you're worried about it, don't worry about it, because it is more so of a entry-level stuff we're doing. However, the mushrooms are more advanced, but I have a herbal pill. If it goes too much, you take it and it stops the trip. But we can also microdose you. And the mushrooms always know how much that you need. And the journey of twin flames is about surrender and facing your shadow. So one ceremony of plant medicine is like 10 years of therapy. So you'll be getting cacao, rapé, sananga, mushrooms, and mapachu. All the information I've got, so fill in the form. It's 2,500 investment in pounds and 500 deposit. So there's that. Don't miss the opportunity. I know some of you say, oh, I'll come to the next one. There'll only be a next one if this one happens, you know. It depends on everyone's deposits and going forwards, because it does take a lot of time and effort to plan all these things, which could be otherwise utilized in other ways for me, you know, in the sense of having a life. Right. So any questions before we finalize? Let's go. Righty-ho. Hi. Where is your twin flame? Where is your twin flame? Why do you want to know where mine is? She is calling me right now. Okay. What else? Hi. Horrible headache. Yeah, the headaches are a big thing right now, I think, because of the eclipse. Major upgrades, purging, DNA repair. Very good. I love this. Excellent. Is it possible to know your twin flame for a few years but recognize it 3 or 4 years later? Yes, your activation can happen later. That's for sure. That can be the case. Absolutely. I recognized mine as twin flames 14 years later. Good. Go TikTok. Any other questions? How's everyone doing? Are you balancing your inner DM and DF energies? Sorry, hugs. Let's have a look. Thank you. Wonderful. So with that, I will end the live. The eclipse energy will get better. Keep focusing on balancing your inner masculine and feminine energies. And remember, the journey is not about love and romance. That's a given. It's about ascension. It's about clearing yourself. It's about spiritual evolution. That's the main thing. So do your purpose. Live your life. Live your purpose. Live your dreams. Get busy. Get active. Get out the mind. Take care. See you later.